All right, fantastic. Welcome back. We are glad to have you here. So we want to go into an interesting session where we're going to discuss about cloud gaming. I know most of us have been used to the conventional games, just playing from the comfort of your home and using the pads. But now also there's something else that is happening, something new that is definitely coming on board. And we want to get into this discussion with none other than a techie and a gamer, Michael Mishie. So he's going to tell us about this new gaming platform on where you can be able to just see your environment, move your hands, use the controls. Tell us a little bit more about this particular experience.
Thank you, Jan.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Sorry, good morning. So I'm coming to you from the metaverse. I hope you can see me, I can't see any of you. I'm enjoying the great views of the Grand Canyon. I have a lounge, I have a nice dining table around me. I have nice views, nice plants, and I have other rooms and places I could be to. So this is what VR is all about, virtual reality, very immersive. It's been there for a couple of years. It's now becoming more popular because the devices are becoming much cheaper to make, sensors are becoming more responsive, and there's a lot more adoption and also game development around it.
All right. So Michael, you are definitely, it seems like you've gone for your own holiday destination, definitely enjoying the scenery,
Yes.
the sea, the blue skies. And this is what virtual reality is all about, that you can be able now to just create your own environment and then you can enjoy yourself in there.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And you can also get games. You can also always install other games. Hitman just recently came out for VR for PC. Hopefully I get to play that soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've played Hitman on the other platform, but not on virtual reality, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Michael. So we're looking forward to have this conversation about cloud gaming, and to moderate this session, he's none other than Michael Mishie. He's a gamer and a techie. So over to you, Michael, as you take over this particular discussion, and we look forward to engaging you more on this particular session. Thank you so much, Michael, and over to you. Asante.
Hi, thank you. As I said, good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my panelists real quick. I hope you are ready, guys. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves. Start with Benjamin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Benjamin Mann from Green Channel NFT. Focused on how NFTs are transforming gaming. Really pleased to be on this panel, joining you from Kiambu.
Thank you, awesome. Looking forward to discussing NFTs and gaming. Ben?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Roberts. I'm from Liquid Intelligent Technologies. I'm joining you from the garden today. So I'm very excited and have been involved in gaming in Kenya and across Africa for many years, but I'm very interested in aspects of hosting servers, infrastructure for gaming, around esports and game developers in particular. So happy to be here and have this panel today.
Last but not least, we have Jay. Sorry, you're muted.
I'm also muted. Greetings everybody. I'm Jay Shapiro. I'm the CEO and founder of Asiku Games based here in Nairobi. We're the largest game development studio in Kenya. We primarily make social impact games, games that are educational and motivated towards behavior change for positive social impact.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Like the headset. So guys, let's jump straight into it. Start with NFTs. Benjamin, what's the relationship we have between NFTs and gaming? And probably also just let us know what NFTs are.
Sure, yeah, let me try and do that. I'm sure that the rest of the panel also can help me here. So NFTs is, it's not a great acronym. It stands for non-fungible tokens. Fungible is not a word we use in everyday conversation today. Maybe you could start to use it. Fungible means something that's interchangeable, that you can swap it and it doesn't matter, right? It's not unique. So for example, money is interchangeable. If I give you 100 bob, you give me back 100 bob. I don't care which coins, which notes, whether you said it digitally. But other things are not fungible. They're unique. They're one-offs. Paintings like the Mona Lisa is a one-off. If you couldn't interchange that for any other painting, and of course, human beings, we're interchangeable, right? You couldn't swap us out for anybody else. So non-fungible tokens really means these are unique. They are not interchangeable. Each is a one-off, but because they're tokens, they can be traded. They can be instantly shared, swapped, sold, bought globally. And that's really what we're talking about. Now, the token can represent anything. So it can represent something in the physical world, like a plot of land, a car, anything you can imagine in the real world could be represented by a token. But the token could also represent something digital or something conceptual, like currency, like a picture, a music clip, a song. Anything you can imagine can be represented by a token, including, of course, assets within a game. So this is where NFTs can be used to bridge the gap between, say, the physical world and the gaming world, but also within the gaming world. If you think about the land that you're playing in, the clothing that you're wearing, maybe there are some resources that you're using. You're firing bullets, or you're planting seeds. Whatever activities you could be doing, those could also be NFTs, which means that they are unique and they're tradable. And that's one of the ways that we see NFTs in games come together and be very disruptive, very transformative, obviously creating a whole new ecosystem, but also really bridging the gap between the real world and this metaverse.
I think anybody else likes to jump in on that?
I'll jump in just to say that it's very early days for NFTs. There's a lot of experimentation happening at the moment of people trying to figure out how can we use them and what are some of the opportunities. And they are sort of the realization of the commerce that is already happening in so much of the games, and what I think we'll talk about is what people call the metaverse, right? So as an example, World of Warcraft, one of sort of and it's an older game, but it's one of the bigger ones, has over 10 million daily financial transactions that happen in the game. And just to give you a sense of that, that's a sort of an abstract number. In all of Kenya, on all of M-Pesa, there are 40 million daily transactions. So you're looking at a quarter of the volume of all of Kenya's M-Pesa transactions happening per day in just one game of World of Warcraft. So this is already here, and it's huge.
And I just want to add, I mean, I'm very new to NFTs, and I did buy an NFT earlier, a few weeks ago. But it's part of an initiative, and it was launched by UNICEF, and I'm working with this to deliver this across Africa. But part of an initiative to raise money for UNICEF to fund internet connectivity for schools in Africa and the rest of the world. So, it's raised quite a lot of money so far, and I've been sucker enough to buy one of these things. But it's to a good cause. But I'm really excited as to how we can see creators in Kenya use this NFTs to create assets to actually have value and earn money, right? And when we see that the traditional platforms where you can create, such as YouTube, we see that African creators don't get paid as much as creators in the USA, just because the rates of return are related to how many eyeballs you reach, and also where the eyeballs are, and in terms of where the advertising revenue is for those eyeballs. If you're creating a painting, a Kenyan artist can realize a global value. So it's not it's not going to be bound by some of these things. I'm really excited about how our local creators can use NFTs to make money.
Thank you, guys. Ben, I'll probably stick with you. We've touched on NFTs, and now we mentioned the metaverse just briefly. What kind of infrastructure do you think we need within Kenya and Africa just to have the metaverse as a realized reality for us?
Cool. Yeah, it's a good question. Let's start with devices. Yeah. So we're going to see a different metaverse and I'm sure Jay is going to tell you the same here, but the allocation of devices that we have in Kenya and Africa are different to the devices that we might see proliferated across the rest of the world. We have an awful lot of smartphones and an awful lot of people doing a lot of things on smartphones. And what we have a lot less of is gaming consoles. Maybe there's about 25,000 gaming consoles in Kenya. And very few of those are VR headsets that we saw you wearing, Mishi. So, I think we need to have a wider diversity of devices, but really a platform and a spread of devices across the populace is a big piece of the infrastructure. So that's going to influence how the African metaverse is going to be. And I think Jay will tell you a lot more about how he sees that panning out. But then we come to the hardcore infrastructure of the data centers and the fiber. And a technology like cloud gaming is going to require a latency of between 20 and 60 milliseconds from the user to the actual data center where the game is being served from. Now, the latency to the closest hyperscale cloud is to South Africa is about 55 milliseconds from East Africa data center, and that's not from your home or anything else. So we're going to find that using the closest cloud, which is in South Africa, is going to be not going to meet the needs of cloud gaming. We're therefore going to have for the East African region, we'll have to have cloud gaming servers here in Nairobi. They would be able to serve Uganda, Tanzania, local markets, other big countries, even Ethiopia once it opens up there and Safaricom build out the network. So cloud servers able to serve 300-400 million people. But then we look at the last mile technology. 4G, which is the way that most people are accessing data right now with 4G devices, is going to have too much latency to do cloud gaming. For many types of games, some games are less latency sensitive, but certainly first-person shooter is requiring high speeds. So we're going to see, those that are accessing network connectivity with fiber broadband or with 5G, we're going to see those people as being able to have more opportunity for gaming and use of the metaverse than those that are still on 4G handsets. Again, there's a device infrastructure part of this because very few 5G enabled handsets in Kenya, but we'll see device refreshes and that filtering through population, but it all ties into one as what I would call the base infrastructure. What we do have is a lot of solar power, which is great for all the energy needed to create and move these NFTs and these blockchains. That is very good. So I think I would, summarizes the infrastructure point from my side. Thanks.
Over to you, Jay. And as you answer that, probably want to throw something else to you. You are part of a development house, so this move to cloud gaming and the metaverse, just how much is it affecting your development cycles, how you're creating games, and what kind of games you're able to create? Are there any limitations you're finding, especially with, let's say, first-person shooters, third-person shooters, just moving those into the metaverse or into a VR state?
Yeah, so since we're at a CIO conference, I think any sort of long-term experienced CIO will relate to the sort of this pendulum that swings back and forth over the decades from centralized computing, what client server, what we used to call, to edge-based computing. And so we went from main servers, if you will, to the home-based PC, to now sort of Chromebooks and going back to a centralized server type thing. And in the gaming industry, that's exactly what we're seeing on cloud-based computing, where we had really a buildup of the computing power at the consoles and the PCs. But in order to reach a larger audience, they're trying to now centralize that on the equivalent of the old mainframes in data centers, and blades. And so what we're now seeing is, as Ben mentioned, the need for that low ping rate, that low latency to be able to get that data flowing back and forth. What's interesting is that most of the cloud-based gaming investments, and these are massive investments, are being done by the big U.S. companies. So you have Amazon, you have Google, you have Microsoft, etc. And they're primarily focused on the U.S. market. The reality is they've not been very successful so far because cloud-based gaming doesn't make a whole lot of sense in a North American context where a lot of people do have powerful PCs or the gaming consoles. But to put that in context, the newest Xbox, the Model X and S, have shipped about 12 million units total globally. Whereas in Africa alone, we have over 400 million connected smartphones. And so if you want to provide cloud-based games over a mobile environment, Africa is really the forefront of it all. And it's particularly relevant here. For us at Asiku Games, 100% of our games are cloud-based games. We operate purely from a server infrastructure. Everything we do is HTML5, what you would call a progressive web app, rather than relying on the remote processing power, because as Ben mentioned, in Africa, many people have, first of all, it's an Android mobile first continent, but also a lot of people have sort of smaller, older phones, or some of the Chinese brands that don't have the memory and the processing power. And so, yeah, we try and centralize. But Ben is absolutely correct that we need more data centers around the continent to reduce those ping rates. And it's not always a geographical separation. It's really around data time for the pings going through the pipes. So today from Nairobi, it's faster to go to a Dubai or Paris-based server than it is to go to South Africa, even though that may be geographically closer.
I thank you. Benjamin, next question is over to you. Recently, we saw Microsoft's largest acquisition happen to be of Activision Blizzard, which is, of course, a gaming publisher and gaming studio. And Meta's second largest publicly known acquisition was for the Oculus. This trend where we're seeing large tech companies buying up either game device manufacturers or game publishers and studios, what do you make of it? Is there something they are seeing that we're not seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're beginning to see is, every company, every brand is now looking at how they can establish themselves within this digital world. So that's, as you said, it's not just tech companies that are acquiring stakes in the metaverse, but even if you look at the fashion brands, the work that brands like Nike and clothing manufacturers and sports companies are really looking to get into this in a big way. And that, of course, is beginning to happen here as well. Organizations with brands are asking themselves, what does our brand mean in the metaverse? And of course, there's a lot of Me Too and, people, as has been said, a lot of experimentation, right? People are looking at what can they do with their brand. I'm really excited to see, for example, what sports are doing. I was actually meeting with one of the local football clubs yesterday to talk about how this is going to impact them. And you just new ways you can engage with your consumers, with your users. So, owners of NFTs are being given privileges or access to vote on, how the brand will appear. And there's this higher level of engagement that you can have with consumers. And that's really where, companies are looking at experimenting. What does this mean? How can they engage with their clients differently? But I think at the same time, this is a great opportunity for us, as Ben mentioned earlier, local artists, local designers, much of that work, is here. And what NFTs, whether they're in games or outside of games, is helping is providing a platform for us to get local art, local talent to a global audience. And that's what we're doing with Green Channel and NFT is, getting local artists, local designers, and enabling them to create these new assets, engage in different ways with local brands and international brands, and say, yes, we actually can contribute to helping you engage with clients in a whole new way.
Would anyone else like to add something?
I just want to, it's a point of order, but it's, Jay said about it was easier to get to a data center in Dubai. And, it actually isn't. Dubai, although we have from Kenya, we built a submarine cable to UAE, which is the country that Dubai is in. That submarine cable goes to Fujairah. And Fujairah is owned by, there are two companies, telecoms companies in UAE, which is, one is Etisalat, one is Du. The main place where our landing station of our cable is owned by one company, and the main data center where the cloud gaming servers in Dubai are is owned by another company. It's almost impossible to actually get to Dubai, even though it's geographically sensible. So in the way we build our networks, we have a lot of challenges in Africa with things around cross-connection fees, and this sort of restriction on cross-connections and restriction on cross-border connections that often make us follow the most abnormal routes to get to an obvious place. So the obvious way to Dubai is to go to Fujairah and then to Dubai, yet the realities of telecoms regulation don't let that happen. And actually, in fact, the main gaming servers we use are in the Middle East are in Bahrain, which is very close, and we are able to get to Bahrain. Fortnite servers are in Bahrain. But anyway, there's a lot of very strange things in the way we build networks. And then the same, we take the same considerations in liquid intelligent technologies in the way we build our networks, because it applies to banks as well. So a lot of the CIO readers here, and you've worked in banks, Mishi, as well, so are coming from a banking background. So the same requirements of low latency is required for gamers is what's required for banks. So we think very carefully in the way we engineer our network, and we're engineering it for the gamer and the banker in mind.
All right, thank you. So moving on, we've discussed quite about the infrastructure. Now probably on to something more soft, patents and IP. I don't think there's an industry I've seen more aggressive towards filing patents than gaming, especially probably towards within America. We've seen patents that have been used to sort of delay use from competition. Others seem like direct rip-offs of those patents and of other existing mechanics within gaming. So I'm wondering to the whole panel, what's your take on how game studios and game developers are pushing for patents? Of course, understanding that where there is intellectual property to be protected, then you do have the right to do that. But there have been instances where the line has been crossed. Warner Bros. With an MSC system is a good example where people feel a very good mechanic that would have benefited a lot of the gaming industry is now tied down to a single publisher. Over to you guys.
I'll start by just saying that I'm philosophically against software patents. I don't think they're particularly effective, and I think they're antithetical to innovation. And I think in Africa in particular, they're even less relevant. I think that patents are only worth what, if you're willing to enforce them. And most IP creators, if you will, on the continent, just don't have the financial resources nor the time to be able to hire the panel of lawyers that you need to be able to go out and aggressively enforce the patents. And if that's the reality of your situation, then why invest in making them in the first place? I think the way that you protect your IP is by being fast and leading from the front.
I would also say that very few patents are being filed in Kenya, and they're not necessarily, I would say that I agree with Jay that it's not necessarily serving the needs of the Kenyan innovator. And it takes an awfully long time as well. It takes too long in Kenya to get a patent approved. So it actually becomes even harder. I would say generally that the whole field of intellectual property is not well serving the Kenyan gamer, the African gamer, and is cutting access to markets because a lot of rights, when it comes to licensing of copyrighted material, often is allocated geographically by the content owners. Yeah, so the outcome of that is that a lot of the devices that gamers have in Kenya might have been bought from all over the world. They might not have been bought in through the official dealer for the country. So owners of consoles may well have bought them from the official dealership, which is coming out of the Middle East, but they may well have bought them imported them on Jumia or Alibaba or something else and got them from the US. So we end up with a lot of issues around geo-blocking of devices, geo-blocking of IP addresses, and the same goes for payments. So, a colleague of mine was trying to buy a game on Steam for his kid with a Kenyan card. It was finding it impossible. He tried it with a South African card, but then he wasn't. But the game, it just became a really difficult thing. And we have prevalent payment platforms. We really need to have ways to get the global gaming industry to actually understand there is a market here and stop locking us out of playing. It's not really good.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I definitely am aligned with Jay's philosophy on patents. They're not really very effective. I think one way we need to look at this is, we have an opportunity to create intellectual property here that represents, the cultures and all of the great art, history and art and creativity that we've got here. Certainly, we need to look at how do we protect the platforms, but ultimately we have to get we have to build these assets. We have to get them out there. We have to, create brands that will have global appeal, international appeal, and then we can figure out collectively how do we protect that. Just the same way as that little region in France protects Champagne, make sure that it's the very best comes from where they are. Well, the very best representations of Africa should only come from here, not because we've got a team of lawyers protecting it, but because it's the best and because it's available. And to a large extent, in the world of IT, contracts and lawyers don't solve problems. It's about having the code. It's about being there. It's about having the best. And if you go right the way back to the history of gaming, you look at the genesis of Street Fighter II. It was surrounded by many, many ripoffs. But why was it the best? Because it was engineered with meticulous care and style, and so it was able to hold its place. And we need to do the same thing.
Thank you, guys. We are coming to the end. So just to end the conversation, we've seen a lot of industries turning towards the gaming industry. So either to borrow something or to invest in it or just to come into that space. And I think probably they're coming to learn a lot about how games engage with their audience and how they can transfer that to their markets. And so there's quite a lot that gaming as an industry could teach other industries. And probably as you give your parting shots, I'd also request you to give me one particular trend you see coming up for Africa or Kenya within the gaming industry this year.
I mean, very simply, I think the trend is going to be more gaming, right? I know, during the pandemic, I have stats on the network, and I've seen a game. I see internet traffic to a game like Roblox, right? And I don't know how many of you play Roblox, but I'm sure your kids do. We have seen no other type of traffic rise more in the African network than Roblox in the last 2 years, and I've been talking to them and establishing direct connections to them in every way I can get to connect to Roblox, because we're seeing so much growth, and the trend is there. We're seeing more gamers doing more gaming for longer, and it's not going to stop.
Thank you. Benjamin, sorry.
Yeah, I think the trend that I'm expecting to see is two things. One is a lot more collaboration between traditional technologists and artists and designers. I'm a techie, but I'm spending much more time with artists in art galleries explaining how NFTs can change their industry and how they work. So I think greater collaboration between technologists and artists is what's going to happen this year. And I think secondly, new ways of raising funding to support the creation of these things will emerge as well. So I think the traditional ways in which funds to develop IP, whether it's games or any digital content, is also going to change. as artists and techies find new ways through traditional NFTs to start to build movements, and we'll see new communities emerging.
Ben, is it more fun working with artists and creatives than it is with techies? Eh?
Absolutely, yes. It is a lot more fun. It's like a new lease of life for all of us, really, and it's invigorating. Yeah, I think that collaboration is really gonna happen here. Yeah.
Over to you, Jay.
I'll jump in just to say that it's a really amazingly exciting time for gaming in Africa. I mean, gaming industry as a whole is going to hit $200 billion this year globally. As Ben mentioned, grew massively because of the pandemic, during the pandemic. And that's even before you really start to build in the blockchain gaming numbers that we're just starting to see now with some of the huge players that are coming up in that space. But within the gaming industry, there's really only 3 markets globally that have a total addressable market of 1 billion players potential. And that really is China, India, and now Africa. And unlike any other market in the world, Africa's a fresh ground. You know, it's green, it's total greenfield, and we are really at day one. And what we're starting to see is the massive ramp up that Ben was talking about with Roblox happening on the continent, a massive ramp up of new content creators, and what's starting now is going to be a massive ramp up of M&A activity of the international players, those public listed studios who need the double-digit growth and are going to look to Africa for that. And really all eyes are on Africa at the moment in the gaming industry. Africa Games Week is happening in Cape Town 2 weeks from now, and you're going to see some very exciting announcements coming out. So I would say that anybody who's involved in tech in Africa, has been around for the last 10 years or so, and is looking for what's next and what's interesting, take a look at gaming, because it's not for kids.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I'd like to thank my panel. Been an honor with you guys having this conversation. I'd like to thank the audience. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I hope you've learned something. I hope you pick up a console very soon, or pick up a game from your smart device or whichever. Again, games are not just for kids, they're for everyone, and they are the fastest and easiest way to learn. So have fun and have a good year ahead. Thank you.